It's a fifth line day. Today we have gate 29. The fifth line is called Overreach. So the first line tells you the essence. It tells you that struggle is there for us along the way, step by step, and that we are here to deal with each struggle and go through the difficulties of it in order to achieve success in this life. When you get to the fifth line, this is how the hexagram is projected upon by the world. So we've had the essence of what the hexagram actually is, and here is how it is seen. They're not very often the same thing. So what we get here, the world is looking at gate 29 as simply being about overreaching itself, over ambition. This is how the world sees the energy to say yes all the time. The lifetime learning says the tendency to bite off more than one can chew. So it is projected on these beings that they have the capacity not only to be persistent, but really to push through all the time, to be persistent in their activity and in what they do experientially, and then to universalize that process. They can be very valuable contributors to that. And because they have that capacity inside of them to universalize the value of an experience, the projection on them is that they have the capacity, and it will bring them into making all kinds of commitments that are not necessarily of value for them. When we think about the general, our fifth line general, waiting for that opportunity, that moment of crisis, to be able to bring its particular gift and to be able to succeed. When you get to the 29-5, at the moment of crisis, when it's necessary for someone to make the commitment, if you don't volunteer, nobody will volunteer. If you don't put your hand up and say, we have to do this, we should do this, let's commit to doing this, then nobody else is going to do it. And in that kind of situation, the 5 can get way in over its head, or in way over its head, making a commitment to something that it cannot really fulfill. And at the same time, by making the commitment, things start happening. Busyness can start taking place. Things start getting done. In the exaltation, we have where the drive is in the design and not ambition driven. The uncontrollable drive to say yes. There is this genuine power of saying yes. It's the uncontrollable drive to say yes. It's a deep power inside to say, oh yes, I commit myself to this. And it's not their fault. Of course it's not. And it's not like they're taking on all of these commitments for their ego's sake. They just don't have a choice. It's their inbuilt mechanic. And because commitment is something that we need all the time, and because there's always a crisis, the 29-5 is always being called on to be the solution, to be the savior, to be the one whose commitment is going to make a difference. 29-5s are here to bite off more than they can chew. And that's okay. But they have to know which thing to bite a lot of. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then it's okay. Then it will work out for them. And it will always be okay, including the detriment, which says failed ambition, saying yes, overextending one's resources and failing to persevere. And this can be devastating. Failing to persevere at its highest level is failing to persevere in life. In this ordeal of coming to accept the perfection of what one is, the beauty of one's form, the process that one is going through. And it's not just about saying yes to many things and having the obvious mundane failures come about. So many people with the 29-5, they say yes to this, they say yes to that. And at some point, they cannot provide the resources for all of that. And so they begin to break promises. They begin to disappoint people because what they said they would commit their energy to, they can't commit their energy to anymore. This failed ambition can have the same kind of devastating impact as the experience of falling into water and having to be saved. Not being able to save yourself, having to go through the trauma of that experience when you are that fifth line personality. We have people who will have failed ambition, and there is nothing wrong with that. It simply means that the moment that the 5 is called upon to fulfill the commitment, they are not able to. They can't. And that is the failure. What may have been started by their commitment may go on and be of enormous value. That's possible. But their part in it will have failed. And when we look at genetic continuity, we can see that each line has, in a spectrum, has more advantages in one hexagram than in another. They seem to fit better with one hexagram than another. This is the case where the 5th line has to deal with failed expectation, and it's something that it must learn, and it's not something that is at all comfortable for a 5th line with its focus on its reputation and being the one to save the day in crisis. Our 3rd lines deal with a failure because they have an inbuilt way. They are equipped for it. The 5th line is not. This is something that they have to learn, and they learn through this gate of saying yes. So it's interesting to see something about the nature of commitment. The foundation of commitment is the draftee. The commitment is necessary, but you have to get into the commitment. So that's what it is, But what society sees in the 5th line is ambition. It sees overreach. It sees it's an uncomfortable energy for it. If you imagine 20 people who are working at the same job, you don't want anyone to overreach, because that one person who makes a bigger commitment and brings an awful lot more energy to the whole situation, they make everyone else look bad. And so that causes other people to get annoyed. And if there is one thing we know about society, they actually quite like failure in other people. They like to see people crash. They like to see the mighty fall. As long as it's not happening to you, as long as you're not the one who's failing, bring it on. We're funny creatures like that, really are. The 5th line raises to another level what it means to make a commitment to this life in this form. If you do not love your form, if you are not ready to say yes to anything in order to find the meaning, to see what it is, then you're going to fail. There is that failure comes through in that 5th line. So much about what it is to fail in life is that deepest failure of not loving what it is to be you. There is nothing else. You have to accept what it is that you are. Not what you think you can become. There is no becoming. There is what you are right here, right now. The real failed ambition in this line, it's about not accepting your form as it is in this moment. And the moment you accept what you are, then you know your own limitations. You know what there is for you to say yes to and what there is for you to not say yes to. Then this power of universalization becomes something so very beautiful. And the 30, line 5, is called irony. It is an irony to have the power to say yes, to step up in times of crisis and make a difference, and yet not to be able to love yourself. To be saying yes to things that don't actually support you in your process. If you're able to see the irony, perhaps this is where the grounding lies. Oops, I did it again. I said yes to something I should have walked away from, and now my reputation is in jeopardy if I back out of this commitment. Oops, I did it again. I've got a feeling that's another song title, isn't it? Yeah, anyway, don't really remember that one. The moon, it transited into the tribal solar plexus gate 37 at 9:07 this morning. Not long ago, depending on when you're watching this, of course. The gate of friendship. So yeah, I wish you a friendly and harmonious day. It then moves up into the logical head center, gate 63 at 18:07. This is after completion, the gate of doubt, with the wonderful line, in the spiral of life, all ends are beginnings. This is where we find the pressure to question the things we do not feel secure about, from the mundane to life's bigger questions. We're looking for logical answers that can be validated and relied upon in order for us to feel secure as we move forward into the future. And then tomorrow morning at 3:08, we move into the individual solar plexus gate 22, the gate of grace or disgrace, the gate of openness or being closed off, which, when it's in the mood, this gate has the potential for emotional openness and graceful social interaction that makes one very naturally attractive to others. We can always throw the or not in there because, there is the possibility of being unattractive to others by being closed and disgraceful. But if you're honoring your mood, if you are honoring your own design and people don't like it, well, fuck them. I'm done. Thank you very much for joining me for this fifth line. It's the top of the hexagram tomorrow. I will see you then. Have, as I said, a lovely, harmonious, friendly day, being disgracefully open to social interaction. Enjoy it. However it plays out for you, go gently, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.